Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. Hospitality isn't just our profession, it's our passion. With decades of experience and countless stories to share, we've navigated the highs and lows of this dynamic industry, not just as professionals, but as a husband and wife team tackling the challenges of business and life together. This podcast is your invitation to step behind the curtain of the hospitality world. We'll share real experiences, lessons learned, and the moments that have shaped our journey, offering inspiration and insights for anyone walking a similar path. Whether you're just starting out or have years under your belt, we're here to remind you that every challenge is an opportunity and every story has the power to inspire. Hello and welcome back to the Halo Effect Hospitality Stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. Ashleigh, you're just back from NoVacancy after a few days away. Road trip down to London, spending a few days at Excel.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And I think, congratulations to the whole team at NoVacancy. It was their inaugural London show, having had great success in Sydney and Bangkok. And this was the first time that they have launched this event in London. And already I'm looking forward to next year. So it was absolutely fantastic. I think just a great combination of speakers, a little bias there, obviously, myself and client speaking. But in terms of the content, there were 5 different stages that covered different kind of specialities within the hospitality sector. Really great agenda of lots of sort of keynotes, panel discussions, presentations, exhibitors of lots of different suppliers, from your bathroom amenities through to your kind of tech and AI platforms. So it was a really nice mix, actually.
We can tell because we brought back a few gifts for the kids that are just the most random kind of hospitality
their wonderful
treats.
Lavender pillow spray and their White Company relaxing spray, which I'll be keeping at the ready for when they have a temper tantrum. And as well as NoVacancy, which was very well attended. I think the time of year actually works brilliantly because there was a lot of us, I think, were kind of coming out of that January blues of hibernation mode, and just what it's like when you get a bunch of kind of hospitality folk in the room, the chats and the laughs, and just it was wonderful to reconnect. So it was great. So many people.
I saw a few posts of people just enjoying the sun, enjoying the 15 degrees.
Yeah,
and,
I think it was even closer to 19 actually. So it was just buzzy and positive and just great to catch up. So many of our kind of hospitality friends and clients, and met lots of new connections. So it was the event itself was exceptional. And what was great in terms of timing and bringing people to Excel was that just across the hall were Confex, so the big the kind of conference and events show, and the PA show. So there was a lot of sort of relevancy and people coming through, and I popped across to Confex later in the afternoon just to see who was there. There were a lot of the hotels that were part of the NoVacancy agenda, and some of the hotel leaders were also having stands there. Really cool and innovative kind of events. Sort of like things you can sort of experiences you can bring into events. I got stuck at the Misty Orb cocktail area, so I was having porn star martini via mist, which was quite an experience in itself. So, but just again, hospitality kind of always pushing the boundaries and being innovative and fun. And it was a lovely crowd over there as well. So again, brilliant networking opportunities. So lots of people. And then NoVacancy did a sort of kind of after show on the end of the first day. They invited everyone down to the waterfront bar and laid on a very generous kind of food and drinks for about 300 people actually came through. So and that was a really nice opportunity to kind of sit down and kind of have more conversations with a few people that I'd met earlier on, but we were all sort of going off to various stages who actually could have a chance to catch up. And so just brilliant. So lots to kind of digest. And I think, what I wanted to really just jump on and just talk about, I suppose, some of the key themes and trends and just some of the kind of anecdotes that were shared. So, kicking off on the first day was the session, The Road to 2030, Designing the Future of Hospitality Today.
Yeah, well, I think we spoke a bit about this in our last week when we did the preview, and it sounded really interesting. And I think it's great to look at that sort of like 5-year period, not just what's going on in the year ahead.
What's going on now, and I think it was
longer term planning.
Yeah, and obviously things are changing at such a rapid rate, and we don't have all of the answers, but it's just ensuring that you're kind of as much as possible sort of future proofing. But also that your suppliers are as well. And Clindy from Pride of Britain Hotels made a great point around a lot of work that they're doing to bring in sort of innovation and tech to support their hotels as part of the Pride of Britain. But some of the key questions that she was asking were, well, what does your investment roadmap look like, and how are you going to develop this app, or how are you going to change? Because ultimately, we've all bought a shiny piece of tech, and within a year it becomes obsolete. So it's kind of challenging them. And she was saying the RFP processes that she was going through, and really looking at, well, who are your competitors, and going out to them and getting quotes and proposals and kind of matching them, because just taking that time now to ensure that you are kind of future proof for 2030 was really key. So I think there was a lot of talk around technology. Thomas Greenall from Bespoke Hotels, their CEO, he was saying, I'm yet to find a revenue management system that fully integrates or fully does the job that I need it to do. And he was kind of looking forward to speaking to some of the tech companies, but he said we're still in we're talking about all of these amazing advancements in technology, but still too many systems still don't speak to each other on the property. So there's inefficiencies, and that's often a big challenge, isn't it, that we come across when we're doing projects. Absolutely. But I think that's still a key theme.
And I think building those relationships with your software provider, I think certain companies are better than others in taking this feedback and then making changes to the back end to kind of improve, to make it work for your customers, I think is key. I think things like Opera, I think, probably aren't as good as that, because they're so big and there's so many things going on. But the smaller kind of software companies that are coming out with new ideas, they're often run by software people, and they're always looking for that feedback from the users to sort of see how they can improve and how they can do that. It can be frustrating, especially I've always hated open a ticket for that.
No, it's
the easier software companies can make that and keep that two-way communication going, the better. But it's a fascinating point. It really is, and there's so much tech out there. We keep on mentioning it. There's so much tech out there, and sometimes just an improvement of what you already have is a great option. But sometimes, you just have to move to something else that will be a little bit more amenable to your feedback and doing something better. Yeah, it's really interesting.
So tech was a big discussion point, and again, I think that conclusion around tech is an enabler, but we're a people business at the end of the day, and the tech has to kind of work hard in the background, so then it allows the people, the team members, to make those genuine connections with guests, to build that loyalty. So I think that is still very much kind of at the heart of the conversation. There was quite a lot of talk about how you measure success and performance. So RevPAR still matters, but it doesn't tell the full story. And one of the panelists, Lionel from Goldwing Hospitality, he said, you can't bank RevPAR. So, looking at different metrics. So there was a lot of talk around investors and operators are looking much closely at profit. So the GOP PAR, so gross operating profit per available room. And that kind of demonstrates, I think, obviously it's not just about the revenue piece. We need to be managing the costs, and you can't bank the top line. It's the bottom line that matters. Yeah. So the return on capital and profit per square meter were also being talked about. So I think just that kind of slight shift.
Some feedback from Hyde, which was a hotel investment event a few weeks ago, and that was very much talking about yes, those top line figures of things like RevPAR. Yes, it's great. Revenue per available room, super. But when investors are looking at things, they're looking at it a little more detail. They're looking at the profitability and making sure that everything makes sense. Looking much deeper into those numbers, and absolutely, you can have great RevPAR and still be losing money, right? So there has to be something that gives you a better idea of what's going on.
Yeah,
really interesting. Yeah.
And then we talked about kind of creating loyalty and that sort of discoverability of your hotel, and that guests are still discovering the hotel through maybe OTA, AI-led search, social media, and then it's really when that guest walks through the door that first time, it's about building those connections, driving that loyalty, and that hotels just need to sometimes work harder to convert that kind of OTA guest into that like direct loyal guest over time.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. I have a client at the moment that we're just doing a deeper dive into what the kind of conversion rate of OTAs is. And when I talk about conversion, I mean like turning their OTA email into a personal email.
Nice.
And some hotels, have managed to get that down to, I've worked it out to sort of 4%. So 4% of guests who have booked through OTAs still have an OTA email, which is good. You want a low percentage there. But then others in the same group are up at 70%, which, if you're talking about that and you're becoming so reliant on OTAs becoming a kind of that entry point for a lot of people, you need to be getting personal emails off people, and you need to be converting them, and that's often the best way of doing it. Certainly from an operational front desk perspective, if you can get their email and then you can add them into your own marketing funnel, then it's a really powerful way of converting them, and then you follow that up with some sort of offers and things like that.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of best direct, and then of course, there was huge conversations, and in many of the discussions, so not just the keynote, is or AI is already changing that search behavior. So that ChatGPT are integrating now, so you become a looker to a booker in just a few simple steps. So that whole funnel now has changed completely. So you can put in your I want to go to Paris for a weekend with my family, we want to do this and this. It'll give you an itinerary. You think, great, right, book, and then they're integrating that booking. So there's that challenge of I suppose that traditional way of us doing that kind of real like top of the line top of the funnel, discovery. That's all kind of changed. So I think there was some really practical takeaways, and I'll talk about Harry Fielder, who's the chair of HMA and founder of Umi Digital. He did a sort of separate session, but one of the things that he was talking about is just building your website so they are AI readable. So things like having a FAQ page on there, having obviously outside of your website great reviews. Your digital PR is going to be really important, because that's what AI is using to kind of pull you into that relevant search. So it's not about being on the first page of Google anymore, or a chosen search engine. It's about being in that AI overview. So there was lots of conversations around that, and Bespoke Hotels were saying that they're going back through the process of kind of rewriting their website so it's more readable for AI. So there's quite a bit of kind of almost like retrofitting of websites. But I think everyone was really honest and saying, look, the technology is changing. We recognize that we need to do stuff. It's a process, and we're not there yet, but we kind of know what we've got to do, and we've got a process.
And staying flexible as well, because these algorithms that are now for GEO are relevant now, but they could absolutely change in 6 months, a year's time, and just making sure that you have processes in place where you can tweak and change and adapt, and then look at the reports and change and tweak and adapt again. That will be really, really powerful.
Yeah. And then Maria Ashton, who's the VP of Development for Luxury Brands for Accor, really spoke about bringing the local community into the sort of life of the hotel, and for their brands, particularly across all of their brands, but I think particularly in the luxury space where she is working, that really making being great, global citizens, being great local neighbours, really looking at your suppliers and artisan sort of community members that you can work with within the hotels, creating those experiences for your guests, for your locals. They were saying that the kind of F&B model of hotels, and actually a lot of their hotels are using operators or other restaurant brands to bring into the hotels, because they're delighted if a guest would stay for dinner for one out of the, say, 3 nights that they're staying.
Yeah.
But, they recognise that a lot of the hotels are in exceptional locations, and guests want to go and discover, local nearby restaurants. And also, they want the hotel to positively contribute to the local economy and do that. But equally, they want to create a place that locals want to come to, and, they don't have to stay overnight to experience it. So I think that was a big theme, I think, with Ennismore as well. They mentioned that in one of their talks. The Pig hotels, they wanted to create, day experiences, not just for overnight guests. So it's all about kind of bringing the community in many ways. So yeah, there was lots of discussion around that, and then just I suppose that whole kind of outsourced model, whether that's outsourced F&B, wellness. Maria talked about the Old War Office, which I think, hopefully get this number right, I think there's about at least eight F&B outlets or restaurants within Old War Office Raffles Hotel in London, which is almost like an urban resort, to have all of that. But they're all kind of restaurant brands within their own right. So they've created this place not just for their guests, but obviously for travellers in London and people in the area to come and kind of experience multiple kind of options. So it was that was kind of the sort of keynote, which really sort of kicked us off. And I think it was just decisions you're making now, just having that 2030 roadmap in your mind, and just being sort of quite disciplined about how any changes you're making now will be I suppose kind of impacted into the future. So that sort of kicked off the first day, and then I just wanted to kind of sort of segue straight into the sort of keynote for the second day, because I think both of those sort of set kind of a great narrative for then a lot of the talk. So UK Hospitality, Alan Simpson kicked off the second day. And again, really passionate about, just a really reminder that hospitality is above all about the people. And it's hospitable. We're creating spaces where people feel welcomed, valued, and looked after. And, he was touched political, which, they do a lot of campaigning on behalf of the industry for hospitality. And, he said, you had a slide, I think, that said something along the lines of, I don't think the government like our sector very much. And he had 2 graphs that came up on screen. The first graph was the overall productivity and sort of kind of contribution from a financial perspective to the UK economy. So on one end of the scale, the biggest contributor is the finance sector, which makes sense. We kind of recognise that. And then you had, kind of your manufacturing and various things. And then right on the other end was hospitality. And actually from a productivity and kind of financial perspective, in terms of its sort of contribution, it was kind of at the lowest end. So when they're making policy decisions, and when they're looking at the national insurance increases, and you look at how much somebody on a, say, minimum wage salary, which is often the entry level for lots of hospitality jobs, how much of a percentage that they had taken out of their take-home pay was vastly higher than, say, someone on 150 grand, which would be your Chancellor of Exchequer's salary, worked out about 20% versus 50, I think. So they were sort of saying, because the government are looking at it in a sort of almost that 2-dimensional way of that contribution, therefore which industry can we kind of screw over if we make these decisions? Hospitality, they'll be grand, kind of thing. But don't do anything that's going to annoy the kind of financial sector for whatever you do. But then the next slide he showed was like, I really wish they kind of looked at this slide, and it was more of the like the social contribution to the UK society. So it looked at which industry contributes the most entry-level jobs from university leavers, which offers the most flexibility and timing and part-time, women, of accessibility in terms of like all, diversities, everything. It was just, hospitality is, the most kind of accessible in terms of people getting into the industry, all of the different career paths that you can follow. So it's not just, in operations, it's not just if you want to be a restaurant manager or a general manager, front office manager, that all the different industries and special, financial, marketing, etc. And that this is how we should view it, as a, we're building resilient humans that can talk to people, that have got these life skills, because that's what hospitality is about, and all of these kind of it's that social mobility piece as well. So that was a really quite a powerful kind of visual, and actually just kind of highlighted just how important it is. And then, he did touch on all of the pressures that we're very aware of. So national insurance that I mentioned, the holiday tax as well, which hasn't come in yet, but talking about,
sort of proposed stage,
tax. And they've got a campaign running at the moment to really try and ban that. Now, there are other, European destinations, like Rome, for example, has a holiday tax. But then when you layer that with their VAT,
is about half, right?
So yeah, exactly. VAT's 10%, whereas our VAT is 20%. So if you're suddenly adding almost 30%, like onto someone's holiday, onto your family's holiday, so it's going to be £120 per family more expensive, roughly, if that comes to holiday in the UK. So from a UK hospitality perspective, it's just another thing that's going to put people off potentially and affect the industry. So so there's a big campaign around that, and I think just kind of raising awareness, and that campaign's live if anyone would like to have a look through their website. Lots of talk around sustainability across the show, and
so when you say that, because we're starting to sort of see focus on other things, I feel like sustainability is becoming a little bit less of a kind of it's kind of there as everyone should be doing it, but it sort of seems to be a little bit less of a kind of a grabbing point. How did you feel it was kind of?
I think one of the key points that Alan made here was that they'd run a huge kind of project and ran loads of data on it, and essentially sustainability matters, but guests are more likely to be responsive of it if it improves the product or enhances the experience, rather than it being treated as a sort of kind of more abstract message. So I think it's like they have to be able to see that the product is vastly improved, and therefore they're happy to maybe pay a slightly more of a premium for that if they can actually see the value. Or it lowers the costs. And then he touched on kind of value pricing. So when something creates joy and emotional connection, you can put an increment on that. And I had a great analogy of a McDonald's Happy Meal, and almost that emotion of when he was younger, he remembers the burger gift that you got, and you kind of pulled it back and it kind of went away really fast, and people were like, oh yeah, I remember that sort of nostalgic feeling. And he was saying that his son just gets so excited to go for a Happy Meal, and it's that almost the joy of the book, the toy, whatever's in, if they do it running a collaboration with a movie that's out or something. So I think there's, I don't know, they were saying that if you took that out, the toy out, and you drop the price by 70p, which is roughly what the kind of increment is, the sales would just dwindle. So they can keep the price higher because they're offering this toy, and it was just about that creating that sense of value and joy, and there's an increment that you can put in terms of that.
And it's a great example of where people are willing to spend that little bit more, because there is money out there. I mean, yes, there's the challenges with costs on everything, but there is money out there. Some people are still doing very, very well, and that's probably why the luxury segment in general is still booming and still has the ability to add a little bit more price onto things and without as much resistance, whereas the sort of middle sectors and lower sectors are really still getting really challenged on price. And will probably continue to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was great session, and a few sort of nice Q&A points, and so it was great. I think those were very much sort of setting the scene, and then I can't obviously have time to take you through every sort of session that I enjoy, but I just wanted to highlight a few of the sessions that I joined and really enjoyed. So the Pigs marketing director Lottie, who's been there I think for about 9 years, she said, so very much kind of been part of their evolution and growth. Just spoke so passionately, and for me it's such a beautiful brand, and it all kind of came down to that the Pig didn't start in a boardroom, it started in the garden, and it was just the garden is central to everything, and the garden writes the menu, not the other way around. And she said that sometimes that constraint can be a little bit frustrating. So we don't have strawberries in December, we don't grow avocados because we source from a 25-mile radius. So she was saying, God, when the whole like avocado on toast boom and TikTok hashtags were trending, we were like, oh God, but they were like, no, stay true to ourselves. This is going to be
courgette guacamole instead.
Well, they did a crushed pea, which obviously from their kitchen garden, and they did it so beautifully. And actually, they were saying that that was just so in keeping, and demonstrated that they're not just all about trends, that actually they do kind of stay true. So it was very much centered around the garden, and naturally that the brand has grown, but they're really selective over the properties, and the garden has to be right, or the opportunity and the potential for the garden of whatever property has to be right. And then obviously they'll look at the the beautiful kind of country house and the heritage and the character, etc. And just lovely stories around that the menu's constantly adapting, which operationally can potentially cause a few sort of headaches, but that's just the way it is. And maybe their carrots haven't grown in the way that we had expected, so we've had to tweak that. And she was saying that the team speak with such passion, and they'll really be able to tell the guest, that carrot's a little bit sweeter than that because of the soil, or being able to just tell the story of the way that it's been grown, and that it's not just something that's kind of bolted on after. It is real, and all of the team members spend time in the garden, and not to become a gardener necessarily, but just to understand and feel that connection. So I loved the like avocado example, and that was kind of superseded with British peas. And then Lottie then talked a lot about how they have evolved. So it was very much about this sort of dinner experience initially, but then they've really kind of brought the garden right through to breakfast. They've also really wanted to open up so the community comes in, and then they had a bit of like many hotels, a kind of very like dead Sunday where it's just a bit of a lull, people check out, and it's just not really not much happening. So they started to trial a little kind of music festival, and I think literally to start off with a guitar and a few hay bales and a few bits of food, and then it's grown and grown, and she was saying it something like 5,000 people, and it's grown from that on a Sunday. So she said really for them it was about kind of extending the Pig community and the brand, and bringing people together.
So is that a lot more focused on local rather than sort of residential?
And for them, the sort of Sunday sessions, it was music was such a key part of the music and bringing people into the garden. So I think creating that experiential element has been key for them. And then one of the questions from co-star who were in the audience kind of, it could have been potentially a bit of a tricky one to answer, but it was, that the Pig has been sold from the founders to a big investment group. And, how does that change the the sort of pressure for growth and ROI.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lottie said, of course, you know, it's changed, and we've kind of gone from a sort of founder-led innovation kind of drive to more of a collaborative innovation. But, you know, we're very mindful of what makes the pig. And if we dilute that, then we've like lost our kind of IP or kind of, you know, USP. And so, yes, that there's different, maybe slightly different kind of maybe KPIs to work to, but, you know, her kind of reason for getting up in the morning is to ensure that that pig brand is, you know, never diluted, that it's always, you know, remains kind of true to itself. So I think, yeah, she answered that really well. And I think, you know, that's been demonstrated by, you know, they have grown, but they've grown very consciously and very purposefully. So yeah, so I really enjoyed that session. And then another great session, which again I think we had in our preview, was with Harry Fielder of the HMA and Newton Fernandez. So Newton has worked across the kind of big luxury brands with Marriott and Accor. And their session was, you know, really avoiding the sea of sameness and finding that golden thread. And it was talking about how, I mean, there's just so many hospitality brands out there, so many hotels, 125 hotels in the pipeline for the UK this year alone. You know, and how can you differentiate yourself, but also how can you describe yourself without just sounding the same as everyone else? So they did a poll, which, you know, things like iconic and curated and authentic. So across the poll that they did, authentic was the most kind of overused and sort of generic term that's just chucked out. Oh, it's so authentic.
I wonder how many times we've used that word on this podcast.
I was like, oh, better go in there. Just like edit. You know, and I think it was just about, you know, that clear positioning matters more than ever, and almost like kind of, you know, be in your swim lane. So if you are in that kind of top end, that luxury end of the market, then, you know, there are words and kind of descriptions that kind of really befit that. Whereas if you are a bit more mid-scale with aspiration, just be really cautious about, you know, chucking in like the odd luxury or, you know, the words that actually are you demonstrating that in terms of your brand. Well, I think that's key. I mean,
you have to demonstrate it, right? If you can't just, oh, this is luxury, and then it's like, okay, well, what's luxury about it? And you need to sort of actions speak louder than words, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we say authentic, and I think there's nothing wrong with authenticity, but if everyone's saying authenticity and then no one's actually that authentic, then it doesn't really work. So no, I love watching Harry speak.
He's so good. And then, you know, he touched into, you know, why that is really important in terms of the AI-led discovery and having that consistency of message, and, you know, having your own story and finding your story and being really clear. So that kind of clarity and credibility was really key. And then you know, we touched on social media, and again, that was sort of, you know, kind of referencing a few things. And, you know, there's certainly those visual kind of levers that you can pull to sort of drive footfall, whether it's, you know, a beautiful artwork or something that's, you know, gosh, dare I say, Instagrammable. And that can sometimes bring people, but it's the memories and creating something that's genuinely memorable is really the substance and what's going to kind of make you kind of memorable and kind of for them to come back to. So I think, you know, of course, like excellent photography, videography, having that, you know, genuine story and distinctiveness in your hotels. So I guess it just all has to kind of have, it all has to kind of come back to that story. So that was a great session. And then on the afternoon of the Thursday, I had my Pivot Observe panel, which it was wonderful to have. So we had.
I saw some pictures. It looked like you were going to have a silent disco.
I know,
with the headphones and everything.
I was ready. But that was really interesting actually. So it was this sort of silent. Conferencing. So each of the stages had these headphones on, so it just allowed multiple sessions to be happening, and it didn't disturb each other at all. So it did take a bit of getting used to, because I had a sort of lapel mic, but then I put the earphones on so I could just hear the rest of the panelists speaking. But yeah, it was, great to have moderated, and, obviously I was a little bit, nervous about, oh gosh, have we got enough questions? Are we going to run over, keep to time, make sure everyone can speak? And I think it really helped that we'd had a few sort of pre-panel calls and, kind of got to know each other, and we all kind of met up in the first kind of 5 to 10 minutes before we went on, just to, sort of reconnect. So, great to have so many different perspectives. So Hayley Roy from Harp Design, they'd designed the main stage, which was beautiful. It was very just the lighting and the shapes and the botanicals. It was, you really felt like you were kind of coming into a lobby almost. They designed the hotel room of the future, which had beds, which had kind of air that was piped through. There was a circular shower in terms of the water flow would be recycled as in real time. That can save you up to 90% of water use per room. So that was being demonstrated. So that was all kind of near to where we were. Then we had Nicholas from the Metro Bank, and then Karim from Ziz Hospitality, who had acquired and kind of renovated Horde House just outside of Milton Keynes, beautiful country house hotel. So lots of different perspectives around, pivoting, preserving, and that it's just not a sort of design exercise. It has to align across, who your target audience is. Are you going to be aligned to a brand? Lots of really interesting discussions, and that Hayley was talking about. She loves to preserve the asset, but bring out the key features, and also there's so much that can be done around kind of upcycling and repurposing different elements. So you're kind of really kind of that the sustainability is at the heart, and then talking about where to spend your money, and and everyone said really just buying things that last, that you're not then having to replace every 5 years, and that kind of trend of almost like every 5 years you need to refresh and refurbish, and it's like, actually, if you buy really well and good quality, you can just
French polish, and you can do these things rather than kind of cheaper materials that just have to go in the bin.
Light touch. And Nick was saying from a sort of banking perspective, they really buy into the owners or the operator's vision for the property. So for him, it doesn't necessarily, maybe, in the past it was always, if you're going to be affiliated with some kind of well-known global brand, that kind of gave a sense of, like minimize risk of lending. But he said, actually, for him, it was about, buying into the person that was kind of overseeing the job. So in this case, Karim and Metro had worked together, and then Karim talked about how he used that money in such a considered way, and just ensuring that ROI, and he really wanted to ensure that every part of the hotel had some sort of either refurbishment or refresh. So he was like, we've genuinely kind of created something and sort of repositioned the property. It
really makes sense. It's kind of almost like a Dragon's Den thing, isn't it? You're sort of investing in the people, and we know hospitality is about people and storytelling and everything else, but if you really are passionate about what you want to do and you're thoughtful about all areas, then it's a lot more attractive to investment and to guests and to everyone, right?
And I think finding that story. So obviously there's the sort of physical space that you're kind of refreshing, and one of the things Quid mentioned was that he has somebody that works with him that does sort of this community outreach and looks for different partnerships and different activations to support the community, and that was like a big part of their strategy. So it wasn't just the kind of physical project; it was the whole guest experience and community experience. So that was really refreshing. And then on day 2, it was wonderful to see Samantha Van Exter, head of hotels at Montcalm Collection, doing her fireside chat with Caroline Baldwin of the Caterer. So it was very much, an overview of Montcalm Collection and how each of the hotels are so sort of distinctive across the 15 properties within London, and then really shining a spotlight on Montcalm Mayfair, which opened in April last year, and really Samantha's role in that. So she very much joined at the stage that it was undergoing that full refurbishment and developing that story, looking at the narrative of its mark of distinction, which is the garden, and how that harks back to the Georgian heritage of the building, and how in Georgian times the garden was so sort of central to kind of community engagement, and they were often quite wild and playful, which sort of gave us a bit of scope to be a bit more playful in terms of the design. The site of the hotel sits on an ancient forest of Mayfair, so those kind of references, and then some amazing sort of historical characters, including Constance Spry, who was a pioneering florist, but who also co-created the coronation chicken sandwich for Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. So, as part of the Into the Garden afternoon tea, which was recently launched at Montcalm Mayfair, they've created almost like a contemporary modern day interpretation of that. So again, coming back to the story and the owning your own narrative, really. And I think that's something that Samantha had worked so hard to create and really bring that through everything. And how important it is that the hotel is kind of rooted in its story, its sense of place. So as well as being stunningly beautiful, and each element has been so carefully curated, it has a genuine story to tell. So so that was really, really interesting. And then we talked a little bit about Lily by Akira Bach, and working with Michelin star chef Akira Bach as his kind of London restaurant, and that really creating that sort of destination restaurant, so as well as our hotel guests, bringing the community in. And that was something again Samantha spoke with such passion around. All of the hotels within Montcalm Collection have that sense of community. They're in neighbourhoods, that they really kind of contribute and work so closely with their local community and create experiences that bring the community into the hotels.
And then really open up the city to guests who are coming to the hotel specifically, I guess, as well, isn't it? It's all that, and it just increasing the experience for everyone. Absolutely.
So that was a fantastic session. And then, I found that there were so many sessions that I'd sort of planned to go to, and then some of them clashed. So I was sad to have not seen Sam Weston's session because it clashed with my session. So I missed seeing that, but look forward to. I've seen a few posts online about that, and sort of AI search, and otherwise I just really enjoyed then going around to the sort of various exhibitors and understanding what they were doing, and the different products that they come out. So I've had my badge scanned a few times, so I'm sure I'll get a few follow-ups. And it's always just great to talk to the different suppliers, and then when we're speaking with clients, that we can consider their solutions and put that forward as part of the proposal. So I think overall just wonderful to be reconnected with many hospitality friends, clients, meeting new people. I think the programming was exceptional. Already looking forward to next
Sydney.
year. In
Get
fact,
booked.
Send me to Sydney.
And Bangkok.
But a huge thank you to the NoVacancy team, and very grateful for the opportunity to have hosted a wonderful panel, and to be part of the event, and it was wonderful, as I say, to see our clients being really well represented and having their stories shared as well. It was fantastic. So yes, roll on next year.
Thank you for listening to The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. We hope today's episode has offered some insights and encouragement to anyone navigating the world of hospitality or entrepreneurship. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, want to suggest a topic, or interested in just joining us as a guest, you'll find our contact details in the show notes. Don't forget to follow, like, or subscribe to The Halo Effect on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Until next time, thank you, and we can't wait to welcome you back for more stories and inspiration.